You ever get that feeling when you're just like laying in bed, wandering off, dreaming off, dozing off or whatever, and then all of a sudden you remember, hey, yo, you know the story of Pocahontas? Like that girl who saved John Smith, the hero who saved, John Smith from a savage tribe. Yeah, nah, we all know that didn't happen. That is like the biggest lie that anyone has ever heard, especially because of the Disney movies and everything. But we're just gonna ignore that for now. We gotta move on to the next steps. So instead, telling you about that fabricated history that is very actually terrible and awful, I'm gonna tell you about the real story of Pocahontas herself. Right. So the first question that everyone asks is, was Pocahontas even a real person? Like, was she just made up? Was she always a Disney character? Because for surprisingly a large majority of people, they don't know she was a real person. It's like, oh, she was made up. She was fake. She was made up by the FBI or something like that. But turns out Pocahontas was a real person who was basically, fighting the Europeans when they came over to her land to, not let them take their resources, their food, their land, everything, and basically massacre their people. But, you know, most people don't actually know that Pocahontas was 13 or 14 years old, depending on which history you're looking at. But overall, she was very young. But considering how young she was at that time, her people were at war with the Europeans. Well, they came and said that, wow, yo, this land is kind of nice. Like, we gotta take this land. And the Native Americans were basically like, yeah, nah, we already live here. What do you mean you're gonna take this land for yourselves? Nah, this is our land. And basically, white settlers said, so we're gonna take it anyways. Native Americans said, yeah, nah, you're not gonna do that, buddy. Like, you think we're just gonna give it to you like that? Nah, we're gonna fight for it. So the Native Americans and the Europeans decided, okay then, well, let's go to war. Let's just go fight. And at that point, it's just like, oh, wars, fighting, bodies everywhere. So, the Native Americans, they basically stood their ground in order to keep their land and everything. The settlers heard of the chief's daughter, and guess what her name was? Pocahontas. Crazy thing is, the chief loved his daughter so much to the point where her real name isn't even Pocahontas. Her real name was Mato Ako. And the reason the chief gave her the name Pocahontas is because it meant playful one. And also the reason that the chief loves his daughter so much is because sadly his wife passed away while in labor, meaning this is the only memory that the chief has of his wife, which is a crazy fact to know. But hey, you know who else found this out? John Smith. Everyone knows John Smith. Also, he did not look like this handsome, charming prince as in Disney movie. Bro actually looked like this. He was in his 30s. Yes, very old, very ragged, not as very handsome. But we'll just pass that. And so, guess how we know this information? Well, we know it through John Smith, actually. It's because John Smith was captured by the Native Americans and was told all this. And the reason, Native Americans just like outright kill him and just like massacre him was because it's like, hey, we want to show you our culture. We're not so different. We don't have to fight. Like, let's show you how we do things. So you see, we're human too. We ain't gotta do all this fighting and stuff. But John Smith saw Pocahontas and like, yeah, I wanna marry her. Yeah, that 14-year-old girl, that 13-year-old girl. Yeah, I want her. And the chief's like, yeah, nah, buddy. She's already married in the first place. Plus, she's 13. You weirdo. Maybe we should take you to jail or something. Well, those really haven't been created yet. Or I guess really we don't got it yet. So I'm just gonna let that slide. And so, they let John Smith go. John Smith goes back, to the Europeans and is like, yeah, no, we gotta take the chief's daughter because the chief loves his daughter so much. I believe he will definitely give up on this war if we simply take the daughter. And so that's kind of exactly what they did. You know, they came back, took the daughter. It's like, I, so in exchange for your daughter, we want this to end. Chief, you know, tough position, but they take Pocahontas away, you know, and Pocahontas, you know, starts giving them a bit of, I guess, lecture. But, you know, about, you know, their culture and their differences. Crazy thing is, Pocahontas, by this time, you know, grew so accustomed to the European settlers that she kind of, you know, has Stockholm syndrome. It's like, yeah, I kind of don't want to leave anymore. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of just want to stay here. And so, you know, she stays, which is the crazy part. She stays for a while. She stays so long that at some point she gets pregnant with a kid. Ooh, she gets pregnant. That's so crazy, man. But hey, we're gonna keep going and let's see, you know, how this story that we know of even came to be. So, with Pocahontas, you know, being pregnant and everything, that simply means that she got to go back home and confront the chief about this. And so, you know, her and the European settlers go back, and basically, John Smith is like, okay, so your daughter's pregnant, and now, can I have her hand in marriage? Because keep in mind, Pocahontas was married until, you know, the European settlers kind of killed the husband and everything. But at this point, Chief's like, okay, fine, I'll consummate the marriage because I love my daughter so much, you know. I'm willing to understand what she has to say in this. So I will consummate the marriage and we can end this war. And so the war is ended. He's kind of, even though it was in a very violent way, but we're just gonna ignore that. So in the end, Pocahontas basically converted into a European settler because she got baptized. Plus, she started learning their cultures and language, which is just like, wow, that's kind of crazy. Okay. But after that, the European settlers decided to take a few Native Americans back to Europe. And they did get there, lived there for a bit. But while Pocahontas was trying to visit her family, she unfortunately passed away on the ship going back to her family. And the crazy part is, John Smith is like, wow, this story does not make us look like the good people. Like, wow, this makes us look like absolute villains. So, what John Smith decided to do was write 3 books about these. And so, those books, you know, is the history that we've learned to where, oh, Pocahontas and John Smith fell in love. Everything was a happy ending. No one died. Everything was so nice. She definitely was not a minor, and he was definitely not 30 years old. So, let's just ignore that. Haha. And so John Smith wrote these books, and we've studied these books, but with the revelation of the true story of Pocahontas, hopefully you understand truly how diluted history could be sometimes, and how the things we learn aren't always the truth, because there is always the full story that we sometimes avoid. Hopefully you like this video, semi, kind of, but that truly was the story of Pocahontas and the Native Americans. Thank you.